Hey, everybody. First of all, I want to thank everyone who joined me for my interview with Lee Steinberg an hour ago. We covered a lot of ground, and wow, blessed to have known him since 1998. Follow up with another blessing, Loren Taylor,
How's it going, Zenny?
Oakland Calumet District 6 friend, uh, out there running for mayor, finding out a lot about a lot of stuff, which is why I asked him to come on. Even though we've had a lot of arguments and everything, maybe we should go to the Jim King's Gym and punch it out. I'm just kidding.
Hey! If we're agreeing on everything, then we're probably not challenging ourselves enough. Then, how are we?
It wouldn't be Oakland without that, would it?
There you go.
It wouldn't be Oakland without that. Seriously though, I was really shaken up. I want to start off with this. I was really shaken up by the violence and the shooting that happened. I want to know what you thought, because when I was watching in the middle, and the clerk just said, it was almost like a murmur, and all of a sudden she says in a very quiet voice, and someone got shot. And I thought, inside, so I didn't know what was going on. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, gunshots ringing out anywhere in the city happening too often, too frequently. And so the fact that we had gunshots ringing out, which actually ended up with a loss of life in Franco Gabo Plaza, steps away from City Hall, it just brings it home how none of us are too far removed from the trauma that is happening in and across our city. And so it just, for me, obviously, when I heard about it, my heart sank, because I know that my team, others, folks that I work with, are frequently, traversing the plaza and walking in that area. And so the first thought was, what about the safety of the folks that I know? And I know that's frankly the same thing that I think when I hear about anything that's happening in our city, because it is like, all of Oakland is my family. And so it's that personal to me, for sure.
Yeah, it hurt a lot. And I thought, my first thought was that it happened inside city clerks. And then I immediately texted Libby, and I called. Anyway, I'm just glad everyone's fine, but it leads
unfortunately, two victims.
Yeah.
One who lost his life, and then another that is recovering. So,
do you know the names or anything about them that you can tell us?
I do not have anything to disclose more details. Yeah.
Wow. Next obvious question is, shifting gears again because of the nature of it. Does this change how your plans and focus is, and how does this change you? What does it make you think about in terms of your run for mayor that you probably didn't think about before?
Well, what I'll say is that, unfortunately, this incident is not new. And so it is just a continuation of what we have seen, what residents are feeling and struggling with. And so it's something that I've been focused on, is that we have to get on top of this gun violence crisis and epidemic that we have in our city. And so I think my approach has been consistent and continues to be consistent as a council member and mayoral candidate, and what I intend to do as mayor as well. We have to bring all resources to bear to address this issue of violence in our streets. We have to have the both and solution. It's not either, compassion, prevention, or enforcement and standards and having laws. It's both. We have to look at how we address root causes, which we know take longer to manifest, while also addressing the immediacy of keeping folks safe when they're walking in, around, and about our city.
Hey, since a lot of this seems to deal with money, how come we just don't focus on what seems to be, to me, the real root cause is people don't have money in their pockets, and then we have the inflation and everything else. But I have never, in the 40 something years I've been involved, well, not 40 something, but about, since 40, since grad school. My first job out of grad school is the City of Oakland Redevelopment Agency. That was 1986. Pat Cashman. Have you ever met Pat Cashman?
I have not.
Yeah, he's responsible. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, I have never ever felt that we focused on getting money to people. I mean, in a place where they could come away and say, "Okay, I'm soul," or my basic needs are taken care of, my
Yeah.
anxiety is down, right? Why don't we do that?
So I think you may know that there are efforts to do just that. We have a guaranteed income pilot that is currently underway in the city of Oakland. Um, I think one of the challenges with what you're describing is that the limited resources that we have within the city. And so for us to address those basic needs, make sure they're addressed, it often leans to engaging in securing other resources, whether it's state, federal, philanthropic, et cetera, for this guaranteed income pilot, which brought $6 million to the city of Oakland to distribute in a guaranteed basic needs income. Half of those dollars we were able to secure as a direct allocation to the hardest hit areas of the city. So particularly a specific square mile area, and really looking at what we could learn when we provide that guaranteed income in a very concentrated way in the areas that are most hit by crime and violence. And so that guaranteed income study is going on right now. That half then also has a parallel study that's focused on allocating 3 million across the entire city. And so eager to see the results from that. And part of the intent of that guaranteed income pilot is to ensure that we are learning in a way that allows us to continue to invest in such a way at scale, because it's not going to be funded by cities. It's going to have to ultimately be funded by the federal government as an actual program. And the more we and other cities build into the learnings, et cetera, then that will hopefully create the momentum to secure a federal program that does exactly what you're talking about.
But that's my thing. It's, for example, you actually sit down on paper and do the calculation. We need 240 million to get about $10,000 or more to each person, homeless person at least, that needs it. It's a gigantic lift. And so, but my point is that we don't do that lift. 3 million here, and it's a study, but and we're sitting on this legislation. We have AB 464 we still haven't used. We had a plan for a citywide, enhanced infrastructure financing district that I have the PDF from March, but we never had a staff report on it, and then it got blank canned and all that. So my point is, again, it's not just us. This is around the country now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's bigger than Oakland, and we can do what we can with the scale that we have. But how tight revenues are here in the city versus all of the needs that we have, and that if we had more, we would absolutely be doing a lot more. That's part of the job of the mayor, is to help guide the allocation of scarce resources as the executive.
We know each other. Forget the canned stuff. What about the Manhattan Project? I mean, this is serious stuff. We got people getting shot out there. And it's like it scares the blank out of me. I think Miami is talking about having a coin.
Yep.
And yet I don't see us pulling together. It's almost like, okay, I got mine, and sorry for you, but I'll help you. I remember when Libby came out, first pandemic, instead of getting money into business, she did a task force, and Maria Aldretti, who owns Lucas, they lost, they had lost revenue. They hadn't been paid for 8 months, and then going on 20 months after that. I'm thinking, what are we doing? Why? That's what I'm getting at. It's not like there's like hair on fire. Neither one of us have hair, but I'm just saying.
Right. No, absolutely. We've got to get resources to those who need it. I mean, look at the Emerald New Deal that we brought forward, right? Yeah. So when we create new revenue in our city, one of the things we should be looking at is how we use those new sources of revenue to address exactly what you're talking about, the problems on the ground, supporting those with basic needs, especially those who we have harmed as a system. And so when I brought that forward this past June, it would have brought $160 million over 20 years to the Black and brown communities that have been directly impacted by the war on drugs. That's real money that could be invested in a way that starts to address these harms. Unfortunately,
that's what I'm talking about. What happened, man? What happened?
So with that, I mean, to be frank, taking $160 million, directing it to Black and brown communities, there are people who were against that and didn't want to have that direct allocation, and instead, you had. And I'll just say it. We had our public employees unions who were opposed to it because they saw that as taking away from what was due to them, as opposed to looking at how we address the equity that's there. And so that's why we were not able to get it over the finish line and get the votes necessary to even put it on the ballot for residents to vote on. I think you're absolutely right. That's the frustration when we identify ways of directing dollars towards those who need it most. We end up with, I will say, those who have benefited from the way the institution is and want to continue to do so, basically standing up and keeping us from doing just what is needed in our community.
There's a question. I mean, I'm just going to say it in a way, but because you sort of led us there, or I led us there. But I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. I think you know Peggy Moore, okay?
Yep.
And we were concerned. I'm getting so emotional about this. I didn't mean to put her out there like that. But she'll kick my ass anyway. I probably deserve it. That's okay. We were both concerned the Democratic Party wasn't for us anymore because of right? We're talking about,
frankly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I want to do something about it because I feel like I'm a big D Democrat, even though I've been forced to make some adjustments. But still, I feel like the California Democratic Party doesn't think about us. And they think about the unions, which is fine. But the unions have to be for us too. And I never thought, am I wrong?
I mean, you're just putting it right out there. I think the reality is that Black people for a long time have been allies when convenient, but when tough choices have to be made, and it's our resources versus addressing the harms and actually making meaningful investments into the Black community, we often, if not always, are told, oh, no, it's not your turn, wait your turn. And that's what we've seen. That's what we saw with the Emerald New Deal, where the majority of the council chose not to push it forward. That's what we see with other investments. I mean, look at the project labor agreement that's coming up with in terms of making a decision on whether or not to allocate and restrict projects to only those unions that have been unwilling to actually create visibility into how they're doing with diversity and how they're actually creating opportunities for historically marginalized and left out members of our local population. And so it's important that as we move forward, we have the intentional conversations with those who have been our allies on other issues around shared benefit, as opposed to simply, waiting our turn.
Howard Terminal, on that note, that deserves a weekend task force, I think. That's unfinished business. But I saw, and I'll just say this since I'm in the habit of putting things out there, I saw a horrifyingly bad presentation regarding Howard Terminal on Tuesday. I wanted to know.
You could call it that.
What you thought about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really a presentation. It was an oral readout or overview. And yeah, it was disappointing because we should be much farther along with respect to negotiations, finalization of deal terms, clarity relative to where we are. And it is something that I have publicly said I want to figure out a way that we can have a win-win and get the benefits that are needed, both a return on the investment for the city that is creating all of the transformational value that our residents need from a project like this, and a way to, really make this work so that the A's stay at the table. It obviously takes two to negotiate. I did not get my briefing that I had on some of those details happened after this meeting, and so definitely there are frustrations with how things have moved or not moved in Howard Terminal with that project. There's still a lot of gaps that are needed. Some that I think some challenges which could have been foreseen, and then some that frankly are. It seems a result of just how different parties, the A's and some of our city staff have been approaching this, and without necessarily the urgency. And I'm glad that we were able to just emphasize the fact that we need more urgency in terms of actually doing the work that's before us and coming to terms. I think the other piece that's important is that we have to ensure that independent analysis that's needed, and that a lack of, I will say, urgency now doesn't lead to urgency and shortcutting the due diligence that we have to do later once the deal terms are identified.
I hate to say I told you so, but now do you see why I want to run the project? Okay. Hey, all right. Now, on that note, too, not me running the project, but the note of what Ed presented and where it leaves us. Normally, with a presentation like that, council member, some head rolls, somebody gets fired. All right. What are the next steps to make sure that we get on track? That you know.
So as you know, on the council, we don't have the ability to hire or fire or make heads roll. We can obviously make a lot of noise. We can push. We can let our voices be known and create use our sort of our pulpit or platform, if you would. Based on where things are, I think we have to be brutally honest. There's a lot of energy and desire that we get to some sort of decision this year. That is at risk. It is at risk for us to actually have that based on the progress to date. And so I think, yes, the A's need to kind of acknowledge that we've got to sharpen our pencils and actually come to the table if we really want to have something. And similarly, that's something that we've got to emphasize with our staff who were there as well. Obviously, there's some holding of the line. I think it's important. One of the challenges that we've had is because this is not city-owned land, and the city is not directly involved in the transaction. It doesn't qualify as a closed session opportunity for us to have this dialogue. So any conversation that we as the council have about Howard Terminal, and there's more than a quorum, so because of the Brown Act, it has to be done in public, and that strains some of the ability for us to move forward effectively and efficiently.
That's why I was saying to Libby, if she followed the law and established a public financing authority, then you take it outside that concern, and you can have your closed sessions and everything else because it has its own quorum and its own rules, and it's in sunshine, right? But my point is now, okay, boom, that's out the door. Or what's there's a barn term I can't think of, but whatever. What would you like to see happen in the next week
with respect to
Howard Terminal?
Yeah. Frankly, I would like to see what a perceived deal is presented to the council. And obviously, I would want to be briefed prior to it going public, but I think I asked the question of Ed, City Administrator Riskin. It was, hey, by when does this have to be finalized as a recommendation from staff in order for us to be on a reasonable timeline to get something this year? And he said within the next week. So that is what I am expecting and anticipating the focus to be with those who are at the negotiating tables is if that is really the desire, then we're going to push hard as, recognizing that deadline. And as you know, and I've come to observe, nothing like a deadline that forces folks to make real decisions that actually move closer to where we need to be. And so,
actually, nothing like off with their heads that makes
yeah,
them, do that one. Does that
yep,
mean, let's talk about the structure, what that means? Because to me, when you say the next week, I think, okay, they're completed construction drawings, they're not conceptual drawings, right?
I'm not even talking construction drawings. What is missing right now is the deal terms. There are, we got a number of terms in a deal. And the question is where the A's were, where we as city are, what's the gap? And how do we bridge that gap? Does the city come a little closer to the A side? A's come a little closer to the city side? And for each of those terms, that is what our negotiating team is going through. And there are a few terms that are still outstanding where there's a gap. Many have been closed, but others, there's still a gap that needs to be filled. And so in terms of negotiating. And so for me, what that means is that the remaining gaps that exist, you've got to narrow that space to where there's more alignment, or at least we tee that up as a question for the council and say, hey, here's where there's agreement. Here are the 1, 2, 3, 4 areas of disagreement, but this is where we are. What is the council, the ultimate decision makers, final position that then gets established?
Well, not to do my Dean Stockwell and the player gesticulation, but what gets me, okay, is what you said is going to push us beyond a week to 2 weeks, because one, there are a couple of things. First of all, the development agreement, you can't do a development agreement without a complete construction drawing. Let's push that out of the way. You know that. Then the tax increment financing matter has been sitting on the table. I'm still the only bozo I know that has a model that anybody has seen, okay, that other people can work, but it's not it's not complicated to do.
I've seen a model, but it's not mine to share.
Right. That's my point, though. It should be a public thing by now, because it's not rocket science to do these things. And I mean, okay, it's not. And I've done them since 86. In fact, Pat Cashman, as a report, put me up to doing it back then. My point is that should not be an issue. What bothers me about the fact that it is aside from the time frame alone, all right, is that you've got a calculation that they're doing that doesn't, when Century Urban did it, they only used 20 years of the 45-year period. And then people walked around quoting that number for a second. I'm saying, wait a minute, they're not even using the entire bond period. A. Then Libby says we're going to use a limited obligation bond. But hey, if you read state law, that says, hey, you, the issuer, are responsible for cobbling up the revenues if the thing defaults. So wait a minute. So you can't really say it's not on the taxpayer, because if you use that issue, it is. That's why I was saying to her and anybody who wouldn't listen, use an industrial development, use an industrial revenue bond, and then go to the legislature and have the cap taken off of it. You do that, you're golden, because you're raising public money for a private purpose anyway. The A is going to own the stadium, right? So that's what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is they don't seem to really understand the nature of what they're doing. And then when it comes to crunch time to deliver, it's like they're mailing it in. And I'm just calling it like I see it, balls and strikes. You can tell me you think I'm full of it, that's fine. But I'm scared.
I hear you. Then there is no guarantee relative to this project. There are still gaps that need to be filled. And so we absolutely need to make sure that we are continuing to push on that if this is in fact something that we believe is in the best interest of the city. And I believe that we can develop that win-win that would be in the best interest of the city. But there's still a ways to go.
Shifting gears, you're around the city, you're doing a lot of house parties, you're talking to a lot of people. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are you feeling?
What I'm hearing is not new. And I think anybody who's in Oakland should be hearing, seeing, observing the same things. Top issues: public safety, and homelessness and housing. Those are the top issues across the board. And so we've got to have real plans on how we're going to address those and give residents the confidence that we're going to be able to actually deliver those plans, deliver the value in a way that still, I will say, overcomes what we know are some of the challenges that exist here in the city. And that's what I'm hearing. That's what people are yearning for. Who has the competence to actually get it done? Who has the creativity, or at least the ability to pull people together in a way that ensures we've got solutions that will work, and then who's got the commitment that will actually make sure that we deliver in a way that is consistent, even though, hey, we might have adversity, we might have folks who are, may not see the vision, but actually making those tough decisions that are necessary for us to actually realize the Oakland that we deserve, which is a safer, cleaner, more attractive Oakland that allows all of our residents to equitably thrive.
Talking to people also, do you hear people, because there's a lot of chatter that I hear, well, people are leaving and all this. What are you seeing and hearing that people are doing going on about their lives in Oakland as you talk to them? Because you're out and about every day.
I mean, I've lost count of the number of people who said, hey, Loren, if you don't win this election, I'm leaving Oakland. Like, literally, the stakes are high. We've got folks who are giving up on this city being able to deliver for them. And that's what I am running to become mayor to stop. Like, we should not be leaving good people just because they're saying, hey, Oakland can no longer deliver what I need or what residents need in terms of protecting us, keeping us safe, delivering those basics of government, and continuing to live into, that potential that we've always been on the verge of my entire life growing up here as a kid.
All right. Has everyone ever talked about all the candidates getting together because of this unusual time? It almost seems like instead of that, I don't know that you all are teaming up. I know that it was Ignacio and Seneca at one point, and then that's all I heard about. I haven't heard that you're teaming up with anybody. Shang is sort of out there doing whatever she's doing. And, then you've got Treva and you've got Greg and you've got Peter running his mouth and pissing people off. And, anyway, what'd you think about that, by the way?
It's ridiculous. I don't think he should even be in this in this election, the various debates. We were on a panel with him earlier, and I do feel as though, just by the nature of his comments, and I know you're on the same email thread that I'm on, like I
want him arrested.
He has lost his privilege to run to represent my town, because that is clearly not what we stand for, what we support. And yeah, to me, it's unfortunate that he has the liberty to say the things that he says or feels as though he has that liberty. It is a free society. You can, free speech, etc. But at the same time, that is absolutely not the city that I live in, the city that I want to leave to my kids. And so, it really has no place for that.
And something else you said, I think, is important to emphasize. We both agree and love our democracy, but there is something called the Constitution that guarantees us the right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and also, protection against someone disturbing our peace, right?
Well, also the protection against threats of harm and that inciting hatred, violence that could lead beyond. I think when we had the panel with the JCRC, the Jewish Community Resource Center, they led with the fact that it isn't about the messenger. It is about who might be listening to that message. And the fact that we've seen from Trump and others that if we just give a pass to the stirring up of hatred and these thoughts without checking them, that it makes others feel as though they have the liberty to go and do that much more, take it one step further. And that's what we absolutely cannot tolerate here in Oakland.
I could not agree more. Absolutely. What's the next step for you as we go down the stretch, the campaign?
You know, it is crunch time. We are really hitting the streets. 47 days left until the election, and so it is what it has always been about engaging every voter in their homes, in their neighborhood, in across Oakland, and really letting them know the message and the vision that I have, what I'm able to bring as a Oaklander, third generation, deep roots and connections across the entire town, professional problem solver outside of City Hall as an engineer and an operations consultant, how I've applied that inside of City Hall as the District 6 council member, addressing our toughest challenges head on, and looking forward to expand that as we really work to ensure we make progress and not just do busy work and keep, swirling on these issues, but actually make measurable progress towards the Oakland that, Oaklanders deserve.
Hey man, keep fighting the good fight. I know we've always been battling. We care about Oakland. That's the thing.
That is it. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is deeply personal to me. And that is why I am doing what I'm doing. That's why I advocate the way that I do, and why I've stood on making those tough decisions that, frankly, I'd say at many times went against the grain, the others on the council. But, ultimately, in most cases is, folks came back to, whether it was through the budget decisions on the academies, or whether it was through not rushing the business tax through the first time it was introduced, and ensuring that we had a blue ribbon commission to really vet it as well. And so that's what I commit to Oaklanders, to continue to bring those same values, that same anchor, and the same just focus on Oakland first.
Council member, thank you so much. And hey, stick around in the background.
Absolutely.
We'll be back with more. I want to thank everybody for your incredible support this week. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube, bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com, and check out my newly refurbished, give it a day, Oakland News Online blog.com.
Hey, Zenny, you didn't give me a chance to shout out my my contact as well. So if I can just jump in, reach out to me, Loren.
I'll write it down.
There you go. There you go. Perfect. Loren4Oakland.com to learn more, reach out, support the campaign. Thanks. Appreciate the time, Zenny.
Oh, 1 second. You gotta see this. Like that, right?
There you go. That's it. Perfect.
See, I went to Oakland Public Schools, right? That's why I know how to do it. I went to Skyline, man.
There you go. A proud Titan. You know, my mom's a Titan as well, right? You knew that, right?
I didn't know that. I did.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I did. Where'd she graduate?
I believe she was class of 69.
Class of 69. Wow. Class of 80.
There you go. There you go.
Tom Hanks is 74. And also, you know FX Network?
Yep.
John Landgraf, chairman of FX, class of 80 with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a lot of proud Oaklanders, and a lot that are doing big things, and we got even more Oaklanders to do big things in the pipeline that we need to support.
Yeah, we all got to come together.
Absolutely.
Hey, stick around in the background. I'll see you.
Sure thing.
Okay.